G'day and welcome to Clayton Today. I'm Rod Earnshaw, and in this series we're looking at how to do church. Our topic for discussion in this episode is planting new churches. And with me again to join the discussion is Jonathan Pryke, Executive Minister at Jesmond Parish Church. Good to see you again, Jonathan.
Hi Rod, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And I have to admit, in this episode I have a special interest because you and I helped to plant a church together from Jesmond, a new church, Holy Trinity Gateshead, which I'm now the Minister of. So I thought that today we might use that experience of planting Holy Trinity Gateshead as the basis to try and bring out some general principles for church planting. And you were involved in that process from the very beginning, so I wonder if you could just start us off with what was it that got Jesmond Parish Church interested in church planting to begin with?
Yeah, it makes a change to be talking about something you know something about too, doesn't it, Rod? I think
No
on another of these programs we were talking about world mission, and in a way, what church planting is really all about world mission. It's about the world needing to know Christ. It's about the world that should be giving glory to Christ, and so it's all part of our fulfilling the Great Commission and reaching out. But there are particular circumstances that make church planting a really urgent thing in this country at the moment. I mean, we're in a situation where something like 6 or 7% of the population are in church on any given Sunday. So it's over 90% need to be reached by the church. And also on top of that, not only is that percentage low, but it's declining, and it has been declining fast for a long time. Gateshead, where we planted this church together, has seen drastic decline over decades. I mean, it's been something like 25% each decade decline over the last sort of 30 years or so. So there's a really great need.
Was there a particular circumstance that made you look at Gateshead as a place to plant this plant that you did a couple of years ago?
Well, two things came together really. One is the vision that we had, which is a more general vision, and then the other was the particular opportunity. I mean, it's very important that the context in which this happened was that we, a few years ago as a church, Jesmond Parish Church, thought through what it was we believed God was calling us to be doing, and we came to the conclusion that there were two aspects to that. One was growing the main church, growing the church that we're a part of at the centre, as it were, but also working to see growth through church plants, not just in this country but worldwide. So we had that vision in place. We were looking out for opportunities, if you like. But then this particular opportunity came our way. Shall I tell you more about that?
Oh yes, do go right ahead, please.
And this came to us from Gateshead. There was a little church in Gateshead called Cedars Community Church, and they had been working in a very rough area of Gateshead for decades, and had a vision for the gospel and the growth of the church in that area. But they had also seen what was happening, which was that there was a plan for a massive redevelopment of the eastern part of Gateshead where they were situated, and they managed to secure, because through their contacts with the council, an area of land really strategically placed right at the heart of this new development, where they had a vision for building a church. But they came to the conclusion that the project that they believed that God wanted to happen was more than they could handle themselves. They're a church of just about 30 people, something like that. So they had heard about our vision for church planting, which is partly why, that's how it works, it's partly why that was important. And they actually approached us and asked us if we would like to not only help them, but take over the project that they had, as it were, begun under the guidance of God. So that's really the first stage.
Yeah. So you had this vision for planting, and now you had a particular place to plant a church.
Yeah.
But I know that your next step was actually then to go and raise money.
Yeah.
And I know that might be a sort of surprising next step in what people might expect for church planting. So can you just talk us through what was your thinking, and how did raising a lot of money come into that?
Well, again, there's two aspects to that. One was the circumstance, the opportunity that presented itself to us. Because what Cedars Church had done, what they presented us with, in a sense, was a site and plans. Even they'd had an architect involved. They had plans. They had planning approval for a church building on this site. So it's a slightly unusual way to go about planting a church, in a sense. But our mission that we picked up, as it were, was to plant a church and build the building in which the church was going to exist, and obviously that was going to be an expensive thing. Cedars Church gave us £100,000 as a kind of starter. That's the money they had, and they entrusted us with that, but we needed to raise a lot more money. But that also tied into something else, which is that our vision for church planting is that we should be seeking to plant large churches. We should launch large is a phrase that people use who think in these kind of terms.
Yeah.
And so we wanted a church that would be quite a big church to start with, and that would grow and become an even bigger and growing church. So that costs. It takes money.
Yeah. It might be worth just playing out both of those aspects a little bit, this sort of idea of the budget and then the launching large. So sure. Can you just give us a little, just very briefly, what sort of money were you looking for and how did you raise that?
Well, we came to the conclusion that the full budget that was needed for this church was about £1.5 million, big amount of money. We had £100,000 from Cedars, we needed about 1.4 million, and to cut a long story short, what we did was this started about 5 years ago, and we had a 6-month lead-in, gradually communicating with wider and wider circles of the church's leadership and the whole fellowship of the church, ending with a gift week, which was in the late autumn of 2005, seeking £1.5 million of that gift week. Now, we didn't get £1.5 million, but what we did get was 1.2 million. Yeah. So with the other 100,000, we had a 1.3 million pounds. We changed our plans around slightly. We managed to save some money on the building. We postponed buying a house for the minister. So we were able to do it for the money that God had given us. I mean, in an extraordinary way, really. It was an amazing thing to be part of, and not anything that we'd ever done before. It was a very big amount of money for us to raise, and it was wonderful to see God working in that way.
Brilliant. And now the other aspect of that, launching large, obviously building the building was one thing, and then actually gathering a team and so on. This is about the point where I started to get involved. But can you talk to us about this idea of launching large and what sort of team you needed and how all that was thought through?
I mean, of course, the church is not the building. The church is the building is the home for the church. Every family needs a building, needs a home to live in. So the building is an important aspect, but the church itself is the people. And if you're going to launch large, you need both the right leaders to fulfil the various roles that are necessary, and not least the key leadership role of the kind of senior minister of the church, who's going to lead it forward. But also you need enough people who are really committed, workers, team workers, as it were, to do all the work that's necessary, so that you can start with a bang, as it were. Now we had a situation where there were quite a number of people in the church, in Jesmond Parish Church, who already lived in Gateshead. A lot of people who were interested, keen to get involved with a church plant. So we had a core team of about 80 people, something like that, who went over to Gateshead and were part of the core team. But you need a good number to do this. You need a good number of people to make it work from the start.
Is it worth just talking a little bit about why you need that big number of people? Why that starting with a bang is important?
We wanted to. I mean, there are different ways of planting churches, but the model that we wanted to use was that we did make an impact right from the start and get quite serious numbers. We were hoping for a couple of hundred people from very early on. So to do that, what we wanted to do was to launch the church with everything going, for the Sundays particularly, with everything going at full quality, and so something for everyone on a Sunday. And to do that, you just need a lot of people, because you've got to have all the sort of Sunday schools in place. You've got to have good music. You've got to have just all of those systems in place, especially for the Sundays. And so that's just a part of the whole vision for planting, for launching large. You've got to have a really strong team.
And I think it might be worth just adding. I think what we saw on the ground when it happened was that was really important for enabling us to cater for all sorts of different sorts of people when they came in. Particularly where we are, there's a lot of young families, and having that full range of things already happening, particularly a full Sunday school, meant that people who turned up found someone like them in a situation like them, and they were able to be looked after right from the beginning. So
it was key, wasn't it? And as you are very well aware, it's a huge amount of work, and you need to be able to sustain it. Not just for the exciting first month or whatever it is, but month after month, and then ultimately year after year. I mean, we're looking to plant a church that's going to be large, grow, and be there 100 years from now as well. So this is not, you don't want something that's just kind of flash in the pan. People get excited for a while and then fade away. So you've got to have a really good, strong
That's making me think it's probably worth us talking a little bit about the strategy by which we went about trying to enable that to happen. So do you want to talk to us about that, what that strategy was?
The actual launch process itself, we use something that people speak of as being a sort of W strategy. And that's because of the W shape, which indicates a kind of alternation between monthly preview services and then between those monthly preview services, as it were, at the bottom of the W, other events, both for the team, to encourage the team, and also for members of the community who are not necessarily part of the church yet, but not a Sunday service. So a monthly preview service was a key part of the strategy, which we actually found to be very, very effective.
Yeah. And I guess just talking about that sort of W pattern, the one thing in the middle for people to come back to from the outside, and two things in the middle for the team members to be encouraged by. Yeah. And that was particularly, I think, designed to enable non-Christian people who weren't used to going to church weekly to get a little bit of a taste and to gradually build up to when we're doing weekly. But for us as a team, it also meant that we didn't exhaust ourselves trying to run full Sunday services weekly, as well as all the other sorts of things that we were trying to do to encourage people to come along. So,
I mean, I think that, because I think sometimes people worry that you're not going to get enough momentum. So we did I think it was 3, wasn't it? 3 monthly preview services before the main launch, after which we did services every week. Yeah. And there were all kinds of advantages to that, it seemed to me. And one is that obviously you're starting from scratch, and it's very, very difficult to go from scratch to, as it were, running full speed. Absolutely. So you can build momentum through that monthly preview services. You're not making undue demands on people out in the community who maybe are not used to going to church at all. Yeah. First of all, you're just saying to them, well, just come once a month, and then you can encourage them to come more frequently than that. Yeah. It also means that you can really concentrate your efforts on that once a month occasion, get it really, really good, so it's high quality. Yeah. And also you can learn, and you've got time to readjust. You've got time also for more inviting and evangelism and so on between times. So it's a very effective method.
We did that, didn't we? When we launched, we actually we just did one preview service, then we launched, we started an evening and a morning service. Yeah. I think it has been effective, as we've seen over that 2 years, we've seen growth. We're now added a third service. It's been very encouraging. We're almost out of time, but there's a wealth of material out there for people who want to follow this up. Can you just recommend 1 or 2 resources that would be helpful for people on church planting?
Well, I've got 3 books. I don't know if we'll have time to mention them all.
Very quick.
Here's one, which is called Launch by Nelson Searcy and Kerrick Thomas. There's another one called Starting New Churches on Purpose by Ron Sylvia. That talks about the W method, very helpful. And then Peter Wagner on church planting. We're
going to have to leave it there. Thanks, Jonathan. And thank you for watching. As we've experienced at Holy Trinity Gateshead, there's a real need for new church plants, and there are fantastic opportunities all around us. So I do hope today's discussion helps you to see how your church can get involved. Do join us next time on Clayton Today. Goodbye.